France 24 debate. We're looking at Nicolas Sarkozy and the far right after some controversial remarks by his interior minister, who said that not all civilizations are on equal footing. With us to talk about it, Charles Živadinović of the ruling UMP party, member of the European Parliament, Bruno Gollnisch, Stephen Clark, journalist and author of several books, including 1,000 Years of Annoying the French, soon to be translated.
Into French,
Into
yes.
French, okay.
Yes. Should be fun.
It should be a good book tour. Also with us from Nice, Gilles Ivaldi, who studies migration policy and the far right in Europe at the French National Public Research Institute, the CNRS. Thank you for being back with us. Just a few comments from the France 24 debate Facebook page. Sir Wallona asks regarding that statement, is Sarkozy that desperate to win? Seems dating Angela Merkel isn't enough. Michael from Montreal says it can only be smart what the move by President Sarkozy to back his interior minister. If Sarkozy can make clear sense of the comments made by Claude Guéant, because even now I don't understand why the interior minister would say such a thing when France is going through serious economic problems. My only explanation, to be honest, so far is the man is a raw racist. And here's another remark. Papillon on Twitter, who says the reaction of UMP members of parliament shows to what extent France has a problem with its past. A remark that Stephen Clark made just before the break. There are a lot of raw subjects when it comes to the past, when it comes to collaboration during the Nazi era, when it comes to what went down during the Algerian War of Independence, it seems.
Yeah, well, I think we are very clear on our past. This is why we have done 2 years ago the first debate on our national identity. And I think it was a great success because it was the first time that in France we had people from every part of the country going on the council, on the townships, and speaking about our national identity. Historians, sociologists, and just regular French people. And the National Front, the UMP, the Socialist Party were all in the same room, all in the Republican field, and they were all talking about our French national identity. And I think it was a very good idea to do this debate.
Gilles Ivaldi, let me ask you, what did you think of this debate on national identity? It was controversial.
It was controversial. I'm not as positive about it as your guest in the studio, because I recall the debate didn't lead into much practical implications, and also it was abandoned by the UMP majority because it wasn't such a success. So I mean, my recollection of it is not that positive. But yes, it was very controversial, and again, it was part of this strategy to appropriate the FN issues, which started in the 2007 election. And again, since then, I think the UMP has been very careful to, have this tough stance on immigration, tough stance on crime. And I mean, if you just look at the bills passed by the majority, I mean, this government has passed more immigration and law and order bills than any of its right-wing predecessors. So, I mean, that tells us something about, how salient those issues have been for the UMP since 2007.
Have they stolen your thunder, Bruno Gollnisch?
Well, they're trying to. It's obvious. Well, I don't know, Mr. Ivaldi. It's the first time I'm afraid he might be a little bit more militant than scholar, although he's paid by all taxpayers, including Front National voters. But still, it's obvious that
Are you a militant as well? You're a militant. You take public money.
UMP
What's the problem with that?
UMP is trying to to catch your votes. We put the debate. We did not respect the taboos that kept the mind of the people and also of the leaders prisoners. But the problem is that they didn't solve the problems. For example, we just spoke about the credibility of the economical program of Marine Le Pen. You said that it's not credible, but your results
are strong.
Your results completely failed. Your policy completely failed.
And you think going out of the euro will be a good idea?
You said yourself that you are a patriot, also a party.
Exactly.
You discover national identity now. But you came back to NATO, which was not the policy of General de Gaulle, as I believe. We appear to be submitted to American interests, to German influence on our politics. This has nothing to do with national independence.
But you want to go out of the NATO, you want to go out of the European Union, and you want a country which is centered on France and which is not living with the international community, which is a very bad thing today.
No, I was an attorney in international law, and I used to be the dean of a faculty which teaches in Lyon 27 languages and civilization. Yes. So I am strongly in favor of international cooperation.
But your program is not.
Shouldn't we stop debating on an equal
basis? Let's talk about on an equal basis. Let's talk nonetheless about what is the matter at hand, about whether or not Nicolas Sarkozy's policies are are playing catch up on this. Let's look at the latest tracking poll and it shows that the French president 8-point deficit to make up, according to a latest poll published by daily newspaper Le Parisien. With Marine Le Pen polling a strong third at 16%, ahead of the centrist candidate and the far left. Now, if Marine Le Pen doesn't make it doesn't get enough signatures to be able to take part in the second round, you see that those numbers remain roughly the same. The far right, which claims it's nowhere near enough votes to get to be on the ballot so far. You're saying you've got something like half the votes.
A bit more maybe, but the official paper didn't arrive to the city mayors yet.
Gilles Ivaldi, let me ask you about this point. In France, there's this quirky system where you have to have the mayors and other elected officials who give their signature so that you can be on the ballot. I know the name of your blog is called 500 votes. Is that a reference to that rule?
Yeah, it's actually called 500 signatures because you do need to get those endorsement signatures from local officials, elected officials throughout the country. And that system was designed years ago to prevent minor candidates to run or fantasist candidates to run in the presidential election. So that's why we've called the blog 500 signature, because that's very typical of French politics. If I may just respond to Bruno Gomes, first reminding that as an MEP, he's also paid by the taxpayers.
Yes.
And as a former scholar, he was. So I mean.
Yes, but I wasn't militant.
In that respect.
As a scholar.
I think right now the issue. We've been witnessing this in many presidential campaigns. I think the FN has always had difficulties in getting those endorsements for various reasons. But right now, there's a bit of a controversy over those polls which try to test the hypothesis that Marine Le Pen wouldn't be able to run in the presidential race. And that's what this controversy is about. And actually, I think this, again, it is not very important point to make, because the real thing is whether or not Marine Le Pen will be running in the second round. You can see that Sarkozy is losing. He's really behind Hollande by quite a large gap, a large difference. So that's a real issue to me.
That an allusion to 2002, when the socialist candidate didn't make it to the second round. Instead, it was the National Front that made it to the second round.
Well, each time the National Front say that they are not going to gain their 500 signature and that it's a big thing, I think it's not our job to give them the signature, and it's not the UMP. It's not the UMP job to ask our mayor to give you the signature.
Yes, but we want to stop the pressure. We want to stop the pressure.
Let's ask the outsider here, Stephen Clark. What do you think about this French system?
It is actually a very interesting system because they have to have 500 signatures from mayors. I looked at all this for a blog I was writing. They have to have 500 signatures from mayors. They have to be from different parts of France, they can't all be concentrated in one area of France. So it's kind of eliminating local interest candidates and things like that. And it does give a sort of preliminary idea of what the country thinks, because there are 37,500 mayors in France. There's a lot. Every little village has one. So if you can't get 500, it means that your party doesn't have much support in the country, really, amongst, you know. It is actually a sort of a first test of democracy. It's not, obviously it's not a perfect democracy, otherwise you'd have 1,000 candidates, but it's a kind of first filter, see what the country thinks about the candidates.
The true test for democracy, sir. The true test for democracy is the voters. We have millions of voters, and we do not have a single member of parliament to represent their hopes, their sufferings. If this happened in an African or in Asian,
it's not my fault.
No, it's not your fault. But you say that we have no support. You perfectly know that we have support. That we have millions of voters, and this system, what is absolutely.
But it's just a vote of fear and frustration, Mr. Golnisch.
Accepted.
It's not a vote of subscription to your ideas.
And pressure through publicity. And in democracy, that has been a conquest. The vote, the decision, and it's still the case in all assemblies. When you vote for somebody, for persons, it has to be secret in order to avoid pressures. You kept this, your party. Yes.
So you'd like it to be a secret?
Mr. Giscard d'Estaing was a former. You were too young.
Okay. Yes, I wasn't even born.
Let me ask.
But sorry, but I have three opponents in this debate, so I can just can answer. What is unbelievable is that Mr. Juppé, our foreign minister, 2 days ago issued a statement because there is a singer that is prevented. He did not have enough support to run for. Senegal, the elections, presidential elections in Senegal. Our foreign minister is criticizing Senegal. He should be busy with the French situation, which is what we call a république bananière. Is this would happen if what happens in France would happen in African or Asian countries, there will be motions in the European Parliament.
Do the current rules play to the National Front's theme of victimization?
Yeah, it does. I think again, it's the game works on both parts. I think it's a strategic move by the UMP. I guess is kind of making this harder for the FN to get the endorsement signatures, and then in return the FN is playing with those difficulties to again use the victimization line. That's something that Jean-Marie Le Pen had done back in 2002 and 2007. So yes, I think it's working both ways as usual.
And Nicolas Sarkozy, not the first conservative leader, by the way, to test his right flank. In 1991, when he was opposition leader, Jacques Chirac's The Smell and the Noise speech, where he lamented before Party Faithful, the poor French worker who comes home from an honest day's work to see his black or Muslim neighbor, a foreigner with 3 or 4 wives, enjoying state subsidies. And Africans, of course, still remember the speech the current president made in Dakar when he'd been freshly elected.
Le drame de l'Afrique.
Africa's tragedy is that African man has not sufficiently become a part of history. The African farmer, who for thousands of years lived by the rhythm of the seasons, whose life's goal was to be in harmony with nature, he knows only the eternal cycle of time punctuated by the endless repetition of gestures and statements. In this world of the imagination, where everything is perpetually renewed, there is no room for either human adventure or for the idea of progress.
Gilles Ivaldi, which Nicolas Sarkozy, what was the strategy behind that speech which outraged leaders and citizens throughout the African continent?
Yeah, well, I must say, from a French perspective, that speech was hard to understand. I mean, it was clearly not directed at the French electorate, and it's I mean the strategic element to it is less discernible to me. So I don't know what came through his mind when he made that speech, but clearly, I mean, again, I mean, if you want to put this in the perspective, in the long-term perspective, and I think you were right to go back to Jacques Chirac's comments on, the so-called noise and smell. I think that has been part, of the right-wing strategy for many years now to copycat some of the positions, not all the positions, but some of the positions of the far right, and also to make provocative statements. And we could go back to Charles Pasqua in the mid '80s, and so on and so on. I think so. It's a long line, of controversial statements, and they always end at the same thing, which is to send a signal to voters, to tell them we do care about those issues. Immigration is a salient issue. We recognize this issue as important.
Stephen Clark, those remarks by the former president of France were made some 20 years ago before he was in office. Have those kinds of ideas become more mainstream, or is it just every once in a while? What's your sense about that?
I think there are two sorts of politician. I think there are those who want to unite everyone so that everyone in the country moves towards prosperity, and there are those who think that it's in their interest to divide society and turn everyone against each other. And I think we've been seeing that there are some people who want to divide society because that way they get more supporters on their side instead of just moving together. So I think it's very sad when people make statements that divide a country. It's totally destructive, I find.
The thing is, there's no true national front vote. It's just a vote for deceived people or people
protest vote,
vote of fear. And if you look at the national front ideas, they just lack of sense, and we are not interested about commenting them. We are just interested on the future and the future.
Just a quick question, because we're almost out of time. Gilles Valdi. On the
May I answer to all this criticism? Or?
Just one question, Gilles Valdi. Is the far right vote on the rise Europe-wide, or is it stable?
It's on the rise in some countries, like in Switzerland, the Netherlands. We've seen a rise in Sweden, in Finland, across various countries. I mean, and what we're seeing at the moment is a new wave of populist parties. They are making progress, and they're dealing with two sets of issues. First, economic issues and European issues, and mostly bailout plans for the Eurozone. These have become very controversial. And the second set of issues is that of Islam and the so-called clash of civilization, which I think again is interesting because that brings us back to Mr. Guéant's comments on civilization. So I think yes, we do see a rise of those movements across a number of European countries at the moment, yes.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Gilles Valdi, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Bruno Gollnisch, Stephen Clark, and Charles
May I answer? I cannot answer to all this.
We're out of time, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
But we'll leave it there for now. The Business is Next. It's hosted by William Edwards. You're watching France 24.